Hey guys, how's everything going? This is Jaser. It's been a long time since the last posting a video. Today we're going to take a look at React Portal. I'm wondering if you have used Portal before. I have used it, but not that heavily, and I didn't took it seriously until now. I tried to figure out how it works internally. It's such a fantastic and powerful tool, and yet so simple and natural. Yeah, let's take a look. I put all the stuff in my JSS blog, js.dev. So if you're interested, reading the text, please go there. I'll just do some extra explaining based on this blog. So here's a quick demo. Let's go to the demo, and when I click show model, a model is displayed. Right? Oh, I should use the dialog. Sorry, I used the div for now, but it doesn't matter. And I click hide my model, it's gone. Well, you might think that, well, I can use that, create that easily. Yes, we can. One interesting stuff is if we go to the dev console and go to the HTML script, we can see that this is the container. Our container is the root for the React app. When I click show modal, the mobile is displayed, but you can see modal is displayed outside of this container. But the React app doesn't. You cannot tell that if you from the JavaScript code. Here's the JavaScript code. We render the app, and in that app we just use the state to hold whether the modal is shown or not. You can see here, and then when the button is clicked, we set it true. When it is true, we just render this modal, right? But this modal, you can see that it's under app, but yet somehow it renders itself for the DOM. It renders itself outside the container. So virtually it is inside of the container, but in a DOM, it's outside of it. That's because we're using create a portal here under the modal. You can see. So the content inside this modal actually will be wrapped in this portal, and this portal targets this modal element, which is dynamic added to the body here, body append, and then when we hide it, this will be set to true, and this layout effect will remove the element for us, so it's gone. So you might wonder why this is useful. Well, it's pretty interesting. Sometimes if you create some hover card or popover, right? You really want, for example, if you are on Twitter, you can see those 3-dot menu. When you click it, you have this menu layer, right? You can actually put inside of this menu, but that results in somehow there might be some difficulties how you handle those z-index issue, I would say, right? So generally you want those, especially for mobile, you want it to be outside of our app. So technically, for example, for the demo here, we theoretically we want this modal to be outside of the app, right? We want to cover it with this background and do everything focusing on this modal, but for the code level, we want it to be put inside of this button, right? Because that's where its status is decided. So the portal is here to help us solve this issue. But you might think, well, that's simple. We can create this portal by ourselves without this portal from React. Yes, if you think about the pure rendering part without other concerns. Yes, we could do that. For example, I put a portal here, and obviously it accepts the children and container as props. And then we could just you create a new React instance here, create a root, and we render the elements inside this container. It should be fine. Yeah, it works. I put this demo here. It works as well, you can see. And also, it renders the stuff inside the modal. Tap it, close it, it will be removed. So far so good. But one thing that it doesn't provide is that actually, as we said, with the built-in portal, virtually in React's perspective, the modal everything will be in the same hierarchy, and you can, by this, you can use any context information. For example, the context provider, and also we've seen that suspense stuff, right? There are other components that use this context approach. So here's a demo with show modal, and we can see the context. Here's the value of this context. It's from provider. What does this mean? Is that you can see here in this app, we wrapped the modal into the A modal. The A modal uses modal, which use portal, and inside of it, we try to fetch some context value, right? Some context consumer, but outside of it, we actually wrap the elements within some context provider. The value is value from provider. The default value is default value. So you can see that even though this model in DOM world, it's rendered outside of this app, but it still could get the context. That's because, again, from React's perspective, it's still in the same hierarchy. The DOM level is just some implementation details that React doesn't care actually. So hide it. So far, everything's so good. But if we go to our implementation of the pull component, it's something different. You can see it doesn't get the value from the context provider, but rather the default value. The code it's similar. A modal here gets the consumer, is wrap the provider, but we're not using the built-in portal, but the portal component we created by ourselves. So even though from React's perspective, this here actually it stops here because we're rendering now here. There's nothing in the same tree, and then we render in a different React instance. So this consumer could not get the value from the provider here, so it gets the default value. This is not only thing that we cannot achieve by ourselves for context information, and because of this thing, because we're not in the same architecture, the synthetic event system in React cannot work. So we haven't put it in this demo, but you can understand that when I click here, if within our demo, this show modal button cannot get the event propagated to itself. But inside of React, because it has this internal event system, so the events in here will actually be propagated to this modal. So everything will be treated as if it is there. So only the part of whether to put the DOM is different. You can control that. So that's actually the most powerful thing of React Portal. So here's the question: how does Portal actually work internally? This is very interesting, but actually I've already put a video a long time ago. Actually, this kind of like a year ago or something, explaining how the initial mount in React worked, even though it's kind of one version older. It's 17, I guess, not the 18. But I think the methodology, the way of thinking is still the same. So roughly, how React sync the DOM is first reconcile. The React has the internal representation of the app structure, and you will reconcile, meaning diffing that tree to a new version, and in that process, it will mark a fiber, the nodes, right? Mark it whether it changed or not, depending on what kind of change it has. It could have the marker could indicate that this node must be added, or this node must be updated, or this node must be removed. And by that, tags on that node in the last phase of committing, and React will sync that flags to the real DOM. So if it is add, React will put that node in the DOM. If it is updated, it will update it. If it is deleted, React will just delete it. So keep the fiber, kind of reflect the changes, minimum changes to the DOM. If you take a look at the video, you can see that there's a very important property on each node called state node. It basically, for intrinsic elements, it basically means the real DOM elements. While for other like non-intrinsic elements, for example, the elements you create yourself, or some built-in elements like context provider, or even the porter here, they're porting something else because they're not mapping to the real DOM. For example, we have in a React world, we have a parent component, and inside of it, it renders a div, and inside of it, we render a modal, and modal, we just render a normal div. These two are intrinsic, so they have this state node of real div elements, right? But these two have something else. I just put a dot here. If you're interested, you can figure it out, and it must be some in some of my slides of the demo picture there. But anyway, you only need to know that for intrinsic elements, they have this state node mapping to the real DOM. So this is the normal picture. So now if we're using portal inside the modal, what we want actually is to put the div under this portal into other elements, right? So this div would not be the same div structure again anymore. So what we want actually, because the portal has the container, so what we want is, this is the normal structure. From portal here, we create a new root, actually a container, and render the div. So this is what we want to do, and this is actually theoretically how portal works inside of React. And the most interesting or exciting part is that for the React runtime, for the reconciliation, it actually doesn't care where the state node is, right? It actually, the reconciliation process, the DOM structure is opaque to the reconciliation. As we said, during the reconciliation, we only mark whether this fiber, this node needs to be added, updated, or deleted. And all the magic for portal could just be put into the commit. Yeah, so this is actually, again, emphasize this thing. For portal is actually, the magic is we only focus on the committing, updating the DOM part. Other than everything else will be just basically working. So let's see how we are going to implement it. Not we are, but how React implement it. The first step, we're using the create portal, right? It will returns a special element. This is common practice, except for the intrinsic elements. Everything else will have a special elements type. For here, we're React portal type. Other one like suspense, they're all special elements. So inside of React runtime, this element type will be handled differently. So again, we go to the create child. It handles the portal differently. So you can see here. So if these React elements, so normal intrinsic elements, we could just create a fiber from elements, and this node will be returned, right? This is create a new fiber node. But for React portal, it does not use this function, but use create a fiber from portal. We can see what is different. So this is the default one, create a fiber from elements. The type is the type key, blah, blah, blah. Basically, we just create an empty fiber. But for portal, we can see some different is that the fiber has this state node already set at the beginning when it's created. But for intrinsic elements, the state node is not set at the beginning. It was set at the complete phase, which is here. Sorry about the new line here. I'll fix it. So in the reconciliation, there's a complete phase. When complete phase, the DOM elements will be created or updated. So here, when the fiber is created, it will not have the state node ready. But for portal, it's already there. This container information is what we pass into the portal here. Portal here. Okay, so okay, I haven't put the code here. You can go to the demo and get it out. Yeah, the container is the extra what we created to contain that model. So this is the different part for the fiber from fiber level. Yep. And as I said, when the commit placement the flag here. Placement. Where is the placement? Okay. Oh, okay. It's not here. So as I said, when we do the initial reconciliation, because everything is empty, we need to create a new one. So everything basically should be flagged with the placement. So in the commit phase, everything is reconciled. So we're getting to sync to the DOM. Commit placement will be called for all those elements. And when it is placed, when it is run against the portal, which is host portal. Okay, sorry. There's one thing I missed is that create fiber. Here you can see there's a type for fiber type. Element type is React portal type, but for fiber node the type is host portal here. So for each host portal, you can see. Okay, let's first case take a look at the host component here. So which is the intrinsic element. Basically, you can see we just get the host sibling and insert it place into the parent, which is simple, right? So in the commit phase, we just put the element as the children for the parent, that should be done in the I think it should be, if you take a look the event system, the DOM element event system as an example, it should be in the bubble phase. So for commit placement will be called I think for every new node, yeah, and from bottom to top, and at the end the DOM will be updated. But for portal, you can see it's different. It's not insert or append placement node to the sibling and on the parent, but it says insert or append placement node into container. So we go from bottom to top. You arrange all those DOM ready, right? For our example here, yeah, like we have a div, we have a p tag for buttons here. We will just run is getting them ready. But we haven't attached the real DOM yet. We just create elements and get them organized. And when we go to the portal, we just get it inserted into the portal container. And yeah, that's done. And yeah, and that's really done. And but if you are interested stuff, you will reinsert the parent. So let's go back to the example here. So if it is not portal, it will be wrapped together and then inserted to this div. But now we just insert to this container, and that's it. When we go to this div, it will be again. It means that this div doesn't have anything inside this children, and it will this process will go straight up to the root and done. In the next pass, if there are any changes, because this container is already attached to DOM, in the update phase, if there's already a state node we can use, React will just reuse it. So there's no more this placement, commit placement needed. And yeah, so that's it. That's all for portal, and super interesting, right? And super simple, I would say. And the syntax and how it works is so elegant. I think that's all due to the clean architecture of React runtime. And this is really crazy stuff, I would say. Super useful. After this, I plan to do some more investigation on how to handle the modules elegantly. I have done one video about creating modal system with the React context API, and I started to think that it could be useful and simple, but it doesn't cover all the cases. I plan to create some more videos about modal. Hopefully, I can get a very, how should I put it, a standard way for us to handle modals in React. Stay tuned for that. And yeah, that's it. If you have any suggestion, please comment or comment on my YouTube video, or go to my Twitter. Yeah, hope it helps. See you next time. Bye bye.